How do you feel about yourself? So doing a little bit more inner work. This is actually even deeper than going into the having goals, but really more in the being sense, is how do you feel about yourself on a scale of 0 to 10? If you would, just go ahead and write down, what is your worth? Not net worth, but like, what is your worth? What is your value? Three things we're looking for. What is your worth right now? What do you want it to be? And what is it when you're at your worst? Obviously, when you're your best, you're probably at a 10, but what is it when you're at, like, what's the lowest end of that spectrum? So what is your worth? And if you would, pop them in the chat so we can get a sense of where everyone's at as well. Oh, Ernie, I'm sorry your screen is frozen. Hopefully it's resolved as well. So yeah, put the numbers in that order. So what do you feel like? What is your self-worth on a scale of 0 to 10? Like what is your worth? Okay, 8, 10, and a 3. Okay, 4, 10, and a 2. Thanks, Rich, for clarifying on that 4. Between worth 7, want 10, and the lowest is 5, 6, 10, and 3 from Lenny. Okay, that makes sense. And 8, 10, and all the way down to a 1. Yep, I can see that too. Fantastic. 9, 8, 10, 5, 9, 10, 1. So quite a range if you think about it. From a 9 and a 10, for many of you, it's like 5 or 6 above, and then goes all the way down to 2 or 3 and a 1. We didn't have any zeros. That's good. But here's the reveal on this concept and the reason this is so important, and I'll come back to this in a moment. How we feel about ourselves affects everything that we do, and also what we don't do, what we hide from, what we avoid in facing because of the inner beliefs and fears that we have. And I really appreciate all of you going deep and being real and authentic. It's a testament to the community that you all have with each other, because sometimes I get in groups and everyone's like, oh, I'm a 10, I'm a 10, I'm a 10. But come on, I've never met someone who doesn't at some point have a worst point where you feel a little bit less than 10. So I really appreciate that. The reality is this, and this one takes a while, and everyone will agree with this, but I want you to hear me out and try this on for size and see what your world would look like if you truly adopt this. Anything less than a 10 is actually an illusion. Anything less than a 10. Now, I'm not saying you can't feel less than a 10, but the truth is, what is your worth? The answer to that question should actually be a 10. But we get conditioned by our society. We get conditioned by culture and people around us that if we don't have the things that we're supposed to have, and if we're not able to do the things we want to do, that means that we're not good enough. And the reason that occurs is because we get confused between our role as a leader, as a business owner, as a parent, as a partner, as a friend, as a son, as a brother, a mother, whatever the roles are, and our identity. The identity is the true sense of who we are. The role is just a set of responsibilities that we have. Now, we can be less than 10 in our role. Like, I can be a 10 as a person, but be a lousy salesperson. But I know that if I don't think of myself at the right level, if I don't believe in myself as a salesperson, I mean, come on, you guys have salespeople, I'm sure, in your teams. If you have people who don't believe in themselves, are they going to have a hard time when it comes to time to sell? What do you guys think? Hands up in the air. Yeah, there's so many people out there I'm sure you've seen come across. They have so much potential, but because of their lack of belief in self, they sabotage themselves. So I'm going to give you some more insights on this concept. And when you think about, how many of you have children, by the way? I know you have children. Children, hands up. Okay, cool. About half of you. And if you don't have children, you maybe have nieces and nephews, or remember being a kid or things like that. When your child was a 2, what was their worth as a 2-year-old? That's a weird thing to say, but what was their worth? I mean, come on. How many would agree that if they're a 10? Like, your child is 2, right? That doesn't matter. Now, your child at 2 years old can't read or write, most likely, very well, right? They can't even walk very well, let alone ride a bike. They don't know how to, do a drain replacement, right? They don't know how to do anything, but they're still a 10. Why? Because they're perfect as they are. Their role as a 2-year-old responsibility, they're doing the 2-year-old thing perfectly. And then as we get into later life, we start going into kindergarten and first grade, and all of a sudden we start comparing ourselves to others, and we realize, oh, I'm not as smart as this person. I'm not as fast as this person. I'm not as good looking as this person. And we start comparing ourselves, and that's where our numbers come from. And that compounds over time. So this person's got a bigger house than I do. They have a bigger business than I do. That means something. And the reality is it's totally not true, because that 2-year-old was a 10. You were 2. All of us in this room, we were 2 at one point. We were all 10s. Our parents thought we were 10s, probably thought we were 15 sometimes, but we were 10s, and we forgot. And here's the connection between identity and performance. If you think that you're a 5 and you're trying to perform at a 10 level, you might be able to pull it off for a little while, but we tend to average around our self-concept. So if I'm a 5, I believe I'm a 5, and I go out there and I try to crush it, and I do 5 sales calls, I get 5 sales. That's 10. That's 10. That's a 10 day. That's amazing. But in my head, I'm like, man, I was good. But you know what? I'm not normally that good. I bet it was just a fluke. And the next day I sabotage. I don't go on as many calls, or I fumble the ball, the 1 yard line for whatever reason, because I need to average it out. So we can only be plus or minus in relation to that level of identity and self-worth and self-acceptance. So the way to increase our role performance is actually to increase our identity belief. And it's easy. All you have to do is accept and love who you are. It sounds a little bit, woo-woo on that. I apologize. Just acknowledge who you are inside, that you are a 10, you always were a 10, always will be a 10. It's not what you do, it's who you are. That doesn't mean we perform perfectly, but I don't want you to limit yourself. There's actually incredible research in the book called Psycho-Cybernetics. You can actually, if you go to YouTube and type in Psycho-Cybernetics, you'll see it's by Maltz. I think it's Matthew Maltz, Dr. Matthew Maltz. And he did this whole research, and he found that by shifting your identity and your belief in self, just by visualizing, spending 5-10 minutes a day visualizing your best self, it increases performance. That's not learning. That's not training. That's not getting into the gym. That's simply shifting your mindset levels up your results. Okay. Helpful? You guys liking it? Preach. Okay, preach, amen. That was okay, cool, awesome. Yeah, you guys are all a 10. So role versus identity. Your identity is the thermostat for your success. If you want to turn up the heat, level up your identity. Visualize yourself. Take 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Maltz says take 30 minutes. 30 minutes is a lot for me, but 5 minutes, I can see myself take that a little bit of time and visualize myself crushing it. You have an appointment with a new vendor, new employee, new part of the leadership team, whatever that is, visualize yourself crushing it, because if you can't see it here, you can't be it out there. So we want to level it up. Yes, learn and grow, podcasts, audiobooks, masterminds, all those things. Surround yourself with people, because we know we're the average of people we spend the most time with. And at the same time, we got to do that inner work as well. So our self-worth really is the key. Remember who you really are. Change how you view yourself, and commit to practicing daily meditation on ideal self. It'll be one of the best things you can ever do. And it's not about fake it till you make it. It's really remembering that you already are a 10. The last thing I'll share with you, this is kind of a fun thing to think about, is people say, but if I'm a 10, I actually had this client, he's CEO, construction company, and we're talking about how do you value yourself, and he said, well, I'm never going to give myself a 10. And some of you might, and before we even had this conversation, never going to give myself a 10. I said, well, why not? Well, because then there's no room to grow. I said, okay, then you're telling me though that your 9 is a 10. You're just saying 1 to 9 instead of 1 to 10. He said, okay, well, sure, but I got to have room to grow. And I gave him this metaphor, and you may have heard something similar. I think it's valuable. When you think about an oak tree is, it's a powerful tree. It's a strong tree. It's full potential. What is the value of an oak tree? Well, I think we'd all say on a scale of 10, it's a 10, like it's fulfilling its potential. Well, then we take a seed from that oak, and what is the value of an oak seed? If you will, on the chat, if you want, drop it down. What's the value of an oak seed? Obviously, it's not an oak tree, but it's a seed. Endless. I love it. You see the matrix, my friend. It will keep producing. It's endless. Okay, I like it. Okay, that's cool. It's true. So the whole system. But what is the seed itself is not quite a 10, is it? Or is the seed perfectly fine as it is? See, a lot of people will compare. Some people will say it's a 0 without soil. Now, David, I love that insight. We need to put it in the right environment. A seed without the right environment means nothing, but you put that seed, it is a 10 because it's doing its job, which is being a seed. You then put it in the right environment, nourishment, soil, water, all the things it needs, access to sunlight, it will begin to grow. Now, a couple of weeks later, it's growing into a sapling, or it's a small stem of a tree. It's not obviously an oak tree at that point. What is the value of that stem? Even though it's not a full oak, what is the value on a scale of 0 to 10 on its path? Zero to 10, just pop in the chat if you would. 10, because it's doing what it's supposed to, it's being what it's supposed to be. It is, and it's still growing. So that's the metaphor I want you to think about. Yes, you, your employees, your team, they are 10s. They might not act like 10s. There's still room to grow. So you can still grow even though you are a 10 every step of the way. So I hope that shifts and brings that concept in the forefront. And please, I recommend start meditating if you're not.